All right. Can you guys hear me? Awesome. Thank you, Ishwar. It's in no small part because of your efforts and the work of our entire team that we've been able to do so much in such a short amount of time. And as the saying goes at AWS, it's still day one for the cloud, and it's definitely still day one for Amazon EKS. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing in the future. And we have big plans for EKS. We've come a long way in the last year and a half since we made this service generally available towards making high performance, high production, ready managed Kubernetes clusters easier to create, easier to manage, and available to more customers in more places. So let's talk a little bit about specifically what are the things that we're going to be doing to make all of these things come to life for EKS. So we're going to be expanding to more global regions like China, Montreal, AWS GovCloud, as well as new AWS regions that are announced but not yet launched, including Cape Town and Milan as they become generally available for AWS customers. We're going to be supporting even more instance types, such as the new G4 family for accelerated computing, and we'll continue to make Kubeflow a first-class citizen on EKS. We're also planning a significant reduction in cluster create times. Like Ishwar mentioned, security and reliability are non-negotiable for us. We'll be investing in more and better upstream testing for new Kubernetes versions on AWS. We're also hard at work at the next generation of the AWS VPC container networking interface, and we plan to address some of the most desired networking features with this new CNI, including supporting high pod densities and bringing security group control directly to nodes. There's really no reason that we think that you should be picking between running a production application and saving money. So we're going to make it even easier to run things like Spot instances with improvements in provisioning, management, and auto-scaling for Spot on Kubernetes clusters. And one of the first steps, Ishwar mentioned this just 2 weeks ago, we launched the open source AWS Node Termination Handler. This is an AWS built and supported project that automates node draining during instance termination. So these are types of things that we're going to do to make it easier to run compute efficiently on a Kubernetes cluster. Additionally, we have EC2 ARM instances that deliver significant cost savings and are ideally suited for scale-out and ARM-based workloads. And we plan to make support for ARM processor instances generally available. And you can actually use ARM instances with clusters today, and it's part of a developer preview that's on our GitHub. And finally, making it easier to manage your applications with Kubernetes on AWS is really our core mission, right? That's the reason that we built Amazon EKS and why we're here making the service even better. And we're going to be introducing new tooling that makes it easier to define and run your Kubernetes applications, some of which were just announced during the keynote this morning, actually, with Argo and Flux. And we'll be launching a brand new console experience for EKS and continue to add new features and functionality to EKS Cuddle, which is our official CLI. So our vision for EKS is to give you all the building blocks that you need to run Kubernetes in a single place. So you can create a cluster with a single command, with all the compute resources, tooling, and ongoing information like logs, performance data, metrics, health alerts that give you complete control and also peace of mind over your production applications. And we believe in smart automation that lets you take advantage of the powerful building blocks from AWS and not have to take advantage of the ones you don't want to build powerful mission-critical applications. And we're going to always bias towards giving you the tools that you need to run your applications with the right level of automation that lets you build faster. And what's really cool is that we're not waiting to get started. So I'm really excited to announce Amazon EKS Managed Node Groups. So, thank you. We're thrilled about this. This is actually something that is now generally available. And EKS Managed Node Groups automate the provisioning, scaling, and management of worker nodes for your EKS cluster. So with Managed Node Groups, you can create, scale, and terminate nodes for your cluster with a single command using the EKS console, APIs, EKS Cuddle, or the AWS CLI. And we're also excited that this is supported by infrastructure as code tools, including CloudFormation and Terraform this morning. So EKS will also orchestrate the rolling updates and node draining before terminations. And this includes whether or not you're deleting a node group or if you're upgrading to a new Kubernetes version. We launch nodes across multiple availability zones for high availability, and nodes are automatically tagged for discovery by the Kubernetes cluster autoscaler. There's integrated configuration health checks that tell you if things like you're out of subnets or you have an issue with the way that your VPC or your ASG has been configured. And everything is automatically done directly from the EKS API. So I could go on and on and on about this, but I'm really excited to actually show you how this works. So let's go ahead and get out of this presentation. Just a second here. All right, and here I am. This is my cluster. Can everybody see this? Let me zoom in. How's that look? There we go. So this is the new Amazon EKS cluster detail page in the AWS Management Console. And if we scroll down here, we can actually see that I have a node group that's been created right here on my cluster. So let me go ahead and pop into the terminal. And let's zoom in on that just a little bit here. Oh. OK, great. So let's go ahead and get some nodes. So I can see that I have my node group running already. And is that visible to people? No, OK. White background. All right, hold on. Let's see. All right, let's try this. How about solid colors? I might need to restart this. Give me a second here. Nope. There we go. That's worse, huh? What if we zoom in? There we go. OK. Wonderful. Can you see those? Yes, we have nodes. OK. This is really not that exciting, let's be honest, OK? So I think what's really cool is let me actually show you how to actually make some nodes, OK? Like, let's do this, because showing it static, I could have done this last night and set it all up. So let's call it node group 2. We're going to select an IAM role here. All the subnets for my cluster are selected. I'm going to get rid of the private ones, so I just have some public ones. There's really cool metadata that's actually piped in here in the console, and I'll zoom in even more. So you actually see the AZ where these are being launched, and I can see these are /19s, which, like, excuse my math, it's something around 8,000 IP addresses or something for each of these subnets, so plenty of room to launch some nodes. I can set up remote access for all of my nodes. So this is my SSH configuration. I have an SSH key pair. We really encourage you to do this because it lets you actually log directly in if there's an issue with your app and you can do troubleshooting. You're not required to, but highly recommended. I can also specify some security groups if I want to limit access to that. I'm super excited about this feature. You can add Kubernetes labels directly to the nodes when you provision them from EKS. So if I do stage demo, I can just add my label there, and we'll see that later. So all of these labels that I add go directly onto the nodes in the Kubernetes API, so I don't need to go kubectl and apply a bunch of labels after my nodes come up. And on the next page here, I'll do my compute configuration. This is with Amazon Linux 2. And I also have the Amazon Linux 2 GPU at launch. Over time, we're going to be adding a lot more OS and AMI choices here. At launch, it's AL2 and AL2 with GPU. And you can see that actually I get the appropriate GPU accelerated instance types here based on what I select, or my standard instance types. There's about 50 or 60 different instance types to choose from in the console. Using the API or CLI, you can specify any supported EC2 instance type, some of the more exotic things. And of course, we're piping in some really relevant data. I particularly like we've piped in the max number of IPs. This is based on the ENIs. So every pod that runs gets a unique VPC IP, right? So you can actually see how many IPs are supported per instance based on what I choose. Before, you used to have to like dig through documentation to figure this all out, and our hope is to just give it to you right here. So I'll do a T3 medium. That's a pretty safe instance to start. Let's go ahead and start 3 of these guys. And I have a chance to review. And let's go ahead and create it. So let's actually go into the terminal really quickly. And I'm going to watch for just the nodes that I created. And so this is going to run, and as these nodes create, you're going to see them actually come up during my kubectl watch. So let's actually go in. I'll show you what this looks like in the console. And let's make this all a little bit closer so that we don't have to flip back and forth. I'll show you what this looks like in the console as we wait for these nodes to come up. So here's my node group creation that's in progress. And there's my second node group. I can see that it's currently creating. And if I go in here, I get to see all this kind of really great information about my nodes, right? So I'm actually going to go back to the one that I created so that we can see it all created. So I can see the ASG, the IAM role, all the subnets that I launched into. We really tried to not recreate EC2. We didn't want to, all the great functionality to look at EC2 instances already exists, but we do give you deep links, so you can go directly into the EC2 console, for example, with the ASG, and you can actually see the exact instances that you're running if you want to do that. If you don't want to, you don't have to. On this next page, this is health issues. This is our health monitoring system. So all of the configuration of the nodes, if, for example, you ran out of subnets, or ran out of IPs in a subnet, right? All that information is going to be displayed right here in the console and also through the API. So this is a really quick way to tell if there's any problems on your node group. It keeps you from having to run around through multiple consoles and multiple systems to figure out like what the heck is wrong. You'll see any configuration issues, permissions issues, setup issues related to the nodes displayed right here in the API. And of course, over time, we'll be adding more and more types of health monitoring to this. And I can also see the tags and labels that I've provisioned. So on this one, for example, I have stage equals dev. So that's why on my new one, I can filter based on that Kubernetes label in the API. And then you'll see the node groups coming down through here. So let's take a look. And there we go. So this happened while we were talking. And I can see that first those nodes are coming up. So the kubelet is registering up with the control plane. And then I can actually see those nodes become ready. And here they are. So if I actually do my kubectl get nodes, I'm going to see all of my nodes. So I had a node group of 2 and now a node group of 3. And if I do that again, and I just look for my demo nodes, and I'm going to see just my demo nodes come up here. There we go. So those are the nodes that I just started. And of course, once you create a node group, you want to tear it down, right? And you want to see what happens. So let's go ahead and delete this node group. And I'll delete it. And it looks like that deleted. And then, of course, we can actually do the same thing. Clear. Oh, clear. OK. Fair enough. We'll do that. And we'll actually go ahead and watch for those dev nodes. And what you'll see here is that we're going to actually drain and terminate those nodes. So first, we're going to cordon. And you're going to see that scheduling is going to stop for those nodes. So the Kubernetes scheduler will no longer be placing pods on those nodes. And once we've cordoned those nodes, we're going to go ahead and drain them. Now, during a termination, I'm not going to respect anything. Like, you've come into the EKS API. You've basically told us, kill these instances, shut them down. So we're going to go ahead and shut these down. But during an update, we're going to respect things like pod disruption budgets. So if you have mission-critical containers that you don't want to be turned off, we're going to respect that when we do the cordon and drain. And we'll either wait or eventually we'll fail an update if we're unable to eject a pod. And we'll let you know all of that, right? So if you're seeing that, oh, I'm trying to update this node group and it's not going all the way through, you can come back and you can manually reschedule pods yourself, or you can do a force update. And so here we can see that we've actually cordoned these nodes. We've stopped scheduling onto these nodes. And in a second, you're going to see these nodes actually go not ready. And that means we're actually going to shut them down. That will be the last status that they get, because at that point, they've disconnected from the control plane. Awesome. Going to jump right back in here. Cool. So we're super excited about this feature. We've really built managed nodes to follow all the best practices for running EC2 worker nodes on clusters while taking away the heavy lifting of provisioning and managing them. And as you saw, all of the nodes that are run by EKS, all of the EC2 infrastructure is actually run in your account. It's run in your AWS account. These are things that you can see, you can touch them, you can feel them. This isn't abstracted very far away. So all of the things that work with your cluster today are going to work with managed nodes. So monitoring tools, logging tools, et cetera, things that you install, things that you're used to doing are going to work. And you can also continue to run your own worker nodes alongside managed nodes on the cluster, or instead of managed nodes. It's not a requirement to use this feature, and everything is going to work the same that it does today on an EKS cluster. So another really cool thing as part of this is that we've simplified the setup for EKS clusters, and part of this is the new cluster security group. So this is a unified security group for clusters that's applied by default to the control plane in all managed nodes. And this means that you don't need to create or configure multiple security groups when you run your cluster. Of course, you can still provide additional security groups to the cluster, and if you run your own worker nodes, you can use your own security groups on those as well. So there's no extra charge for using node groups. You just pay standard AWS prices for the EC2 infrastructure that you provision from the managed node groups. So this includes the EC2 instances that you select and the EBS volumes. And I didn't show it very deeply, but if you saw there when we went through the console, you could select the EBS volume size. And that's really important because the larger volume size, the more you pay. So you have control with managed nodes over what you're running and how much that costs. At the same time, these are provisioning on-demand EC2 instances, so any RIs that you've purchased in a region or savings plan usage that you've signed up for, that can also apply to your managed nodes. And EKS managed nodes are generally available right now for new Amazon EKS clusters running Kubernetes version 1.14. We'll be expanding support to existing 1.14 over the next week. It's part of the launch process that's ongoing. And you can use managed nodes in all 16 AWS global regions where EKS is generally available. So the pace of innovation, our commitment to upstream, production-grade, easy-to-use Kubernetes, and our vision for the future isn't something that we just come up with on our own. It's not Ishwar and I and Bob sitting around a table, hatching grand schemes, right? These are things that everything we do, it really is shaped by the needs of our customers. There's no point for us to build something that you don't find useful. There's no point for us to build something that doesn't improve your ability to build and innovate on behalf of your customers. And when we say that we innovate on behalf of you, we really, really mean this. And so we're really excited to hear your feedback and hear about how you like managed nodes, what you think we can improve on, both for managed nodes and for the entire AWS service. And most of what we've shipped in the last year is actually directly from our open source GitHub containers roadmap, right? So we've made our roadmap open source right here on GitHub. Traditionally, when you work with large software companies or large companies like AWS, these types of things are under strict NDAs. They're locked behind closed doors and only talked about in special meetings. But if you don't know that the team building the product that you rely on hasn't heard your voice or is working to improve things in a way that matters to you, then it's really difficult. And that's what we believe, is that this openness and transparency really helps us innovate faster and helps us build the things that you find valuable. And we use the feedback that we get here in the open as a barometer for what we should do next. And I know personally that the managed nodes, which is right at the top here on the roadmap, and we'll be flipping this to shipped in just a second, has over 150 upvotes on the roadmap. So these types of things really matter to us, and it helps us prioritize what we should build and what we should deliver on behalf of our customers. So we encourage you to visit this regularly. You can see what other people are saying. You can upvote and comment on things that you'd like to see, or submit your own ideas if you think we can do something better. EKS issues are tagged EKS, but you'll also see issues for other AWS container services like ECS, ECR, and Fargate. So I know this is a placeholder slide for a lot of presentations, but I want to deeply thank all of you guys. Our customers drive us, and you get us out of bed in the morning, you keep us up late at night. Everything our team does is to make you faster, better, and more reliable, and to improve your ability to innovate on behalf of your customers. So thank you. Thank you very much.